So, good evening, you guys. Thanks so much for everyone that was able to make it live. I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about a couple of announcements coming up. Just a reminder, I know most of you guys, you can all look at everything through the back office, but a reminder about some upcoming dates. So, Lift 4 and Mes de Mas officially launch in October for everyone. So, it's not just the early access. However, you can still get people challenge packs in the early access, which is great. However, if someone's really worried about money, then maybe consider a different way to get them into your group, like ordering Shakeology on Home Direct, which is great that they've changed the rules recently and you get 2 Success Club points for Home Direct Shakeology now. Thank God. So I'm super excited about that. But those launch, and then I noticed that recently everyone that's in the new Shanti program, they're not allowed to release any information regarding it until October 15th. So none of them are sharing any moves from the workouts or anything. So until then, it's kind of like we're waiting and seeing for Shanti's new thing, which everyone, like a lot of people that I talk to know Shanti. They're also very comfortable seeing, doing workouts with him because they recognize him from size or other workouts, or they're very intimidated. I find people are either like, oh my gosh, I would love to do a workout with him because he got me in amazing shape when I bought the DVDs and on the infomercial for the original Insanity. And other people say, no, that stuff isn't for me because I did an Insanity workout once and I tore a ligament or something crazy. I get a little bit of that too. So a couple of those announcements to be aware of, and also be aware of how often you are checking your back office, especially Wednesday nights, see what's going on, and then Thursday mornings to see for the next upcoming week who is projected inactive, especially for those of us who are Lindsay's personally sponsored, who are working towards a couple of goals, a couple of incentives that she has announced for us. And we have to be diamond by, on a certain day. But I did want to do, oh, sorry, Rochelle, what was that?
I thought it had to be paid diamond by this week already.
By when?
By this week.
Diamond? Well, you had to hit Success Club this month, so I'm assuming the deadline for diamond is also the end of this month.
It said paid diamond by this week, or because if you're a paid diamond, you don't even have to hit Success Club. But the Emerald had to hit Success Club.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, then I'll have to clarify that, and then I know this is specifically for me and Rochelle.
That's fine.
But that's okay. But thank you for clarifying.
I need to learn the lingo anyway, so it's all confusing to me. But once I get there, maybe I'll have a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will get there.
Good. And then so the next, what I wanted to discuss tonight was doing a little bit of a review of, it's called the Enneagram. And I'm kind of, oh no, what happened to my screen? Sorry, guys, I can't see you. All of a sudden everything went.
So as of Thursday, you had to be a paid diamond.
Okay.
So if you weren't a paid diamond, then you fall under the Emerald. And you had to have at least 6 active coaches.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Then I must have read it too quickly. I need to stop looking at my notifications while I am at work because I read half of them. Anyway, so those are just a couple of announcements. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the Enneagram, and I recently became I heard about it through Rachel Hollis and through her podcast. And then recently she's also had a specialist on the Enneagram speak on her podcast. And she and Dave Hollis, her husband, had talked about the Enneagram, and they've taken the Enneagram test. They know their numbers. She's a 3, he's a 9, just in case everybody's desperate to know Dave and Rachel Hollis's numbers. So it's a scale from 1 to 9, and it's a personality test. And what's interesting about this personality test is it is very old. It's not a new thing. It's a lot older of a personality typing test than like the GEMS. For those of you that have checked to see what GEM you are. And if I'm being honest, I don't know what GEM I am. I have never taken that test. But I was kind of, my interest was piqued when I listened to Rachel Hollis talk about it and talk about its significance. So what I want to talk about specifically, how this can pertain to your business and how this can benefit your biz, and what, how you can leverage that if you know your number, and then if you know your teammates' numbers and your challengers. And then if people are into that kind of thing, if you're super into personality tests and, astrological signs and things like that, I think it's a really great thing to bring up to potential customers as a way to connect with them as well. And it's something that I've started using, and it's a great conversation starter. And a lot of people don't know about the Enneagram test. A lot of people just look at, the newspapers for their signs, et cetera, or they use a GEM test, which is kind of one of those popular short tests. So for those that haven't taken it yet, I left the link if you guys want to know what type you are. For people on my team in particular, I would love to know what number you are on the scale, because it really does help. Danny and I have talked about our numbers, and we're getting into a system of discussing it more together, and kind of how we relate and how we communicate. So I think that that's really great to leverage in your business. So your primary Enneagram type, and it'll say like a number and then a W and then another number if you're close to another one. So sometimes you can like grab different details. But I find that my primary diagnosis, I say diagnosis because I'm a nurse, but my primary Rochelle's like, yeah, my primary diagnosis is a 3. And so what that signifies is that I am, I have some notes just so that I don't forget. I'm the achiever. And I read through this, and I'm going to be honest, you guys, this test is brutally honest. It's not like, oh, you like walks on the beach under the sun and moonlight and everything's great. This is brutal. It talks about all of the drawbacks to that type of personality. And I tell you what, as I was reading it, like it says, I can read you a direct quote from it. 3s can sometimes find intimacy difficult. Their need to be validated for their image often hides a deep sense of shame about who they really are, a shame they unconsciously fear will be unmasked if another gets too close. And when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, it just cut straight to all of my arteries, and I just felt like I was bleeding out. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my gosh, that is something that I have tried so hard to work through. So I really want to encourage you, if you don't already know your number, to look it up and kind of see. So it's nice to know these things for yourself in particular, because it helps you dig a little bit deeper about your personality. And what's interesting is I've used it. I had my parents do it, and in my opinion, my parents aren't super self-aware necessarily. And I'm not saying I'm some like higher being that is super 100% aware, but I make efforts like this to kind of feel like I'm working towards a deeper understanding of me and who I am. So I had them take the tests, and it was interesting how I very strongly agreed with their type numbers, and they didn't, because they don't see that. They're like, I'm not difficult. And we kind of ended up getting into an argument about it. And it was just so interesting to kind of, it's not meant to be offensive. It's just meant to kind of see it, read it, kind of digest it, and go, okay, maybe I can find truth to that. Okay. And it's really a nice way to dig deep in self-discovery, and a way to see in your relationships. Maybe all of a sudden you've heard in many relationships before in your past a complaint that the same, like your boyfriends or whoever have always said the exact same thing. And you're like, what is with all these people? What is with these people making these claims? Well, now you have this unbiased test saying the same thing. And it's like, okay, maybe I do need to take some time to reflect. So it's a great way to gear also your clients to to try the test as well, because then you can talk to them about it. It's another way to dig deep with them. And then if there's someone that likes this kind of thing and it is suddenly realizing that they're enjoying the work of discovering themselves, then those are the ones that I say, listen, so what I do is kind of like what you could do. The only difference is I'm making money at it and you're not. You're already working out in my challenge group. You already kind of touch base in my challenge group. You've now, the book I sent you when you bought your challenge pack, you're reading it and you ate it up and you loved it. You're doing, these fun tests, and you're loving the self-discovery. And those are the people that you could say, listen, if you're wanting to help other people do that too, then I think that we need to have a serious discussion about how this could benefit you. So that's a great way to kind of grab people from your challenge group to talk to them about coaching. And I know that's really hard because people are like, oh yeah, sure, a lot of people make Success Club every month, but no one turns into a business builder, let alone a coach. So this could be just another tool in our toolbox. It's not the be all end all, just like anything else that any training has ever shown us. It's just another tool. And I feel like the more tools that we have and the more tools we can give to each other, the more successful we will all be. So I wanted to give you just a quick description of all of the options, right? So type 1 is the reformer. So, their focus is to make the world right in their eyes, and they're conscientious, principled, and they can be very purpose-driven. And this is just a one sentence. If you scroll through the type numbers and you read for yourself, what the results are, I think you'll find they're pretty spot on. At least I've had like 5 or 6 people, friends, family, test it and take the test. And I felt like when I read the description, I felt like it rang pretty true. So type 2 is the helper. Their focus is to take care of others in an effort to feel loved and accepted. They're generous, empathetic, can be very humble. Type 3 is the achiever. So it's typically like your CEO, like your typical CEO running up the corporate ladder. To be perceived as successful in the eyes of others is their goal. They're assertive, like to be the best, and have a focus on winning. So a lot of CEOs, are the achiever types. A lot of the drawbacks, I kind of read you a little excerpt of type 3 because I happen to be a type 3. But it's something to be aware of, like, okay, I can have a tendency to shove people out of the way that I feel like are in my way, even though they're just family members wanting me to be more conscientious, or, it also kind of caused me to take a step back and go, okay, am I talking to this person because I want them to be just another coach and another rank advancement, for my benefit and for my moving up on a so to speak, like a ladder? Or is this someone that I actually bond with and would be like a good friend of mine, or that I would want to be a good friend? So it's kind of a good gut check. Number 5, the investigator. With a passion for knowledge and ideas and ability to focus along with keen intellect, this type is a visionary, able to articulate whole new paradigms. They've also earned a reputation as the absent-minded professor. Type 6 is the loyalist, full of courage, ability to stay focused. They're trustworthy, very reliant. So it's like someone who's never flaky, right? They're very decisive and committed. Type 7, joyful, playful, and spontaneous. Type 7 is the enthusiast. So they love, experiencing the richness of the world. And if they're not distracted or scattered, they have a huge potential for accomplishment. And I bet you as you're reading it, you're like, okay, like I could, and you're kind of like, I tend to mentally start typing like friends or family as I read about them. Type 8, the challenger. They're very self-determining, big-hearted, powerful. Their need for control can be overwhelming. I'm surprised I'm not a type 8 a little bit because of some of the description I've read about a type 8. And then peace and harmony for type 9 is the driver for a 9. At their best, they're patient, unpretentious, and have the ability to recognize the highest potential in others. So what's good to know about that is it also kind of helps point out people's benefits, so that if you're, finding you're having difficulty connecting with someone, you can point some of those characteristics out. Like if you read this and you say, hey, listen, I did this test, I was reading about this and that, and it made me think of you because I bet you would be a number whatever because, and then you can list different benefits. And again, I'm saying this because I've started using this and putting this into practice. And it has helped me start different conversations as opposed to the usual, oh, hi, thanks for liking my post. Are you also on a fitness journey? I mean, it's just nice to switch it up to something different and something fun, something out of the box. So I wanted to just share it with you guys. So as coaches, we're always trying to find a balance. And if you can figure out your particular motivations and your habits, and why, at least a small explanation as to why you do what you do, it will benefit your business to help find that balance a little bit. And I do believe that there is no such thing as pure balance. I think that there are seasons where certain things take certain priorities. But I think that it's great to help you be aware of when those priorities need to be shifted. So, if your basic desire is to feel needed, then you might say yes to additional work at work. And as Rochelle had shared, she might feel the need to say yes to additional work when really her body, her business, her mind, or whatever, and I don't mean to point Rochelle out, but she just so conveniently offered some information about how she needs to stop accepting more work to make other things a priority. So, something that is far more unhealthy. See, her telling me the amount of hours she just worked makes me like nauseous because, oh my gosh. So anyway, you might say yes to that stuff. So learning to say no can create more balance, satisfaction, and also some boundaries, which could help. That's just as an example. And I literally made a note about that. And it really is just convenient that Rochelle mentioned that right before we hit record. So a couple of, what was that?
I said, I know, like, that's my problem. Like, I'm also the type that will be your biggest cheerleader and neglect myself or whatever, so that I'll cheer others on, and at the same time I'm letting myself slide back.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a great way to make you more aware. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple of resources I wanted to share with you guys about it, and you can watch Rachel Hollis's podcast. It was from I think it was from 3 weeks ago. Her and Dave were on the podcast. It's like an hour, and the specialist that specializes in the Enneagram, he spoke about more emotional benefits with your partner. As someone who's newer to it, I can't really speak to that quite yet. But I am just wanted to share with you guys how I'm using this in my business as a way to be original and shake things up in my conversations, and to reach out to new people who you've seen a couple of their posts, you've commented, and then you've said, listen, I've got this like super funny test if you're into personality tests, and I'm kind of curious what your number would be because I have a number in my head of what yours is, and I'm curious if you'd be willing to take this test, and then I would love to talk to you about it. Just something different to discuss with someone, and a way to dig deep with someone without, them to feel forced like you're selling them something. This is like totally different, and it's just interesting to know people's numbers and to have that discussion. So so I sent the link for the test that I did for the Enneagram, and there's a couple different sites you can go on, but I sent it. It's in the comments in the group. And then Wisdom of the Enneagram by Dawn Riso and Russ Hudson is a great book resource. I've been looking up the resources to kind of see who are the top speakers on Enneagram if you're super curious. And then Enneagram of Liberation by Eli Jackson Bear. And then you can go to the internationalenneagram.org, and then you can find tapes that talk about the Enneagram and talk about its significance if you don't want to have to sit down and, if you don't want to have to sit down and read a whole book, or if you don't have time for that, you can listen to a couple of videos in the car rides, which is also what I've been doing. I've been listening to that stuff and kind of hearing the benefits of knowing this, and then thinking about how can I turn that into my business. And I feel like that's a lot of, to me, I consider it personal development. And even though I do other personal development, like reading A Tribe Called Bliss and other things, I think it's kind of fun to do this because I can think of ways to leverage that into my business. So it's kind of fun and in a way to think outside the box. So I'm just curious. I wanted to see how everyone did on their test and how you feel like knowing that about yourself, and who you'd love to know their number and how you want to communicate that with them, and kind of how you would think you'd like to, leverage this for your business if you want to. If you're like, I'm not super into this, this is a little woo woo, and this is, then that's also a valid statement. So, Rochelle, did you take the test?
I have not, because
Okay.
How many hours I've been working.
No, that's fine. I'm curious now. I want to say that you're like a type 8 or a type 9.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure I am.
So I'm curious, but there's a whole other description. I just gave like a quick little synopsis of like what they are basically. So there's like pages on each type,
But I may use that as one of the weeks in October's challenge, like even with the free group, to get people like really, because in the free group I've been discussing the Girl Wash Your Face book, so we've been talking about Rachel Hollis. So I may use that as one of the free, one of the week challenge things.
And even for someone that's in a free group, like if you find out that they like external validation and rewards, like that's literally what motivates so many of the top coaches is, the gifts, the prizes, the shout outs from their coaches, seeing them succeed, because then they get a shout out like, listen, thank you so much. Like I now can quit my job because you brought me into this business. And that gives them further validation to keep doing what they're doing, and share their message. So you could find that out and immediately point out people that you would love to be on your team. So Monica, what was your number?
Mine was a 2W3. Was it 2-wing 3? 2-wing 3.
Okay.
And so the helper, but then also the achiever. So I want to do the help, but I want to receive a reward for it as well.
Okay.
I need the benefit. I need that reciprocated somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was eye-opening, and I just now drew a blank, was I think what Rochelle touched on it, how and I've been thinking about it this past week, is how I want success. I want like my team to be so super healthy and get and achieve their goal weight and achieve their health goals, but I'm not doing. I won't do that same thing. I won't treat myself the same way. I won't cheer myself on in the same manner. I'll sabotage my nutrition. My workouts are on point, but I'll sabotage myself when it comes to nutrition. And so then it makes me feel invalid, because I know I'm still struggling on the journey, and I share that I struggle with it. That's not the problem, but I feel false or fake, because I'm not being proof the product works.
Oh wait, Rochelle,
And
you're
so,
talking, but you're muted. Sorry, go ahead, Rochelle.
I was just saying, that's just being real, Monica. Like we all struggle, especially like working these amount of hours. I have not had time to meal prep, and I have gone to the store and literally shut the phone out of it.
Yeah, I just went to the store on the drive home, and I haven't been in the store, and I've eaten out the last 3 days for lunch. And like today on my Instagram stories, I posted a picture of my chips that I had at the Mexican restaurant. Just like, cause I freaking love chips, and they put them in front of me. So naturally I like ate half the basket, but at the same time, I'm also sharing that, I'm going back to 80 Day Obsession because I didn't get to finish it because my horse got sick, and ultimately he has cancer and I had to put him down. And I've gained back all the weight I lost from my original journey and then some. And I'm at the heaviest weight that I've ever been, even before I ever started my journey. So like I've already like shared a little bit of that. And I posted a picture of myself and my success partner Leah from, this was like a month ago maybe. And I'm sure, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was both of us in swimsuits, and she came off of the Beachbody Classic and I didn't. I came off of having to put down my horse of 15 years. And I looked so fat. I felt like, I was like, oh my God, like I can't share this photo. That's like me sucking it in. Like I can't breathe, And then I was like, you know what? someone else needs to hear that. And also, if I don't, I'm going to feel really fake. If I just post a picture
Mhm.
like, oh, like, and like, you know, the perfect, you know, picture, then that's not real. And, you know,
Right.
that's not relatable because tons of people fall off and tons of people have horrible things happen in their lives, you know, and they have to do this. Like Rochelle, like, I feel like I'd be speaking to someone like Rochelle too, be like, she has had this issue with her eye due to work. And of course, I'd feel discouraged too. Like, she's concerned about like going blind in one eye, feeling discouraged overall about that and her health because she's distracted about that. Like, you know, whether it's a personal thing or a family member passing away, of course, like there's every reason to, you know, let go and not focus on that, or just the fact that stress will cause you to gain weight, even if you're on point, you know, even a little bit with your nutrition and you still gain weight and you're like, how the hell did this happen? And
Right.
like, I mean, we could do a whole, like Rochelle and I should do like a whole thing on like cortisol and like hormones and how they affect your body, and how you like have no control over like anything that happens in your body. If your hormones are out of whack, you have no control. So, you know, that's like a whole other discussion though, you know,
Yeah.
but that's good to share. Like there's nothing,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah. And I did share.
don't regret it.
I did share. I mean, just having that insight to myself, how I want it so much for my team, but I don't necessarily do what it takes to do it for myself. I posted in my new challenge group that we started Monday. I posted my full body shot. I posted my weight, and I've been focusing on the nutrition because I know that's my weak spot. And I've been sharing that I'm posting more in my nutrition about my nutrition because that's my weak area. And so that has helped me to break out and have more content to share. But I also think on the 2W3, wanting to help and wanting to achieve, even though I'm striving to get there, is what really makes a good quality coach, if you think about it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you want to help people and you want to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
Lindsay called me out on that one time because over the course, I've had one coach that totally like devastated me because she ended up owing me a ton of money, all this stuff, and I was like really heartbroken. And then one of my friends in Beachbody basically turned on me. She still to this day has like three of my people, and I was noticing today on one of my former coaches who said she couldn't afford it, blah blah blah, and stuff anymore. I was noticing that another girl from Oklahoma, and she would have never known these people from Oklahoma if it wasn't for me. You know, like she has no ties to Oklahoma. She's in Louisiana. And so the former coach of mine, I was, commenting on her post today because I still like let it go. Like I'm still, nice and like and comment and stuff. And so this other girl commented and mentioned that coach's name and said, she really needs girl wash your face, don't you think? So and so. And I thought, oh my God, she's done it again. And I just thought today, let it go. That's not your tribe. That's not your people. The type of stealing from other people and backstabbing, like you've got to let it go. And that's what Lindsay told me when the whole thing went down, because we're both Lindsay's coaches. And Lindsay knows the whole thing that went down.
And Lindsay experienced that with a coach. There's no need to name names. We don't have to gossip, but that she left the company and took people with her and then started bad mouthing. And it turned into this nasty thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard for Lindsay because we're both one of her coaches,
Yeah.
And so, but in light of everything, like she told me, she said, you do for so many, and that's why this is happening to you, because that other person took advantage because you didn't have boundaries. You didn't set you were so focused on helping them that you weren't focused on if your business was taking a hit or whatever else. And she was like, tough love, you've got to set boundaries, and you doing all this for others isn't moving your business forward. It's actually making you fall back. And that's exactly what was happening. And it's exactly what was happening now. And like today, when I saw that, it was all before I went to work out. And I was like, okay, God. And I started praying, and it was like, not your tribe, not your tribe, not your tribe, is what I just kept getting in my head. And I was like, that's right. It's not my tribe. It's not my kind of people. I don't want backstabbers. I don't want people that are going to be like that. So I just have to let it go and know that that was a God thing and a blessing off my plate. But
yeah,
it is hard to.
And it's helped to kind of like have Rachel like feel that validation, like, okay, that's what I do. And it's like, okay, how can I break away from that? Because that's a limiting quality in some cases. So how can I work on fixing that aspect of a limiting part of that quality, but also, how can that benefit my business? Like, how can I fix the part that can hinder me? And then how can I turn it into something that benefits me?
Yeah. And Lindsay explained it as this. She said, you are in a room full of balloons and you're running around popping all the balloons for everyone else. And your business is not moving forward because you're so busy helping everyone else pop the balloons. And she's like, you've got to get out of that box. Like, you've got to pop your balloon and go on. And it always goes back to what she says, if they're truly your tribe, they'll want to be there. But if they don't fit, then it's not worth forcing people to stay or wanting them to stay when that's not your type of people. And she'll say she would rather lose somebody that's going to be the sour apple or the bad vibe to take a hit to have people who want to be there. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just how I felt today. I was like, okay, that's just not my tribe. Like, and I cannot let this coach get into my head any more than she already does, even though we haven't spoke in over 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Darla, how about you? I can't unmute you.
Okay, sorry. My personality was a 2 with a 1 wing.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite sure how I feel about that. I haven't read all of it. I got like the first couple paragraphs and I jumped on here because I was taking it when you texted me.
Yeah. And what did you find that you weren't quite sure how you felt?
Well, I did a screenshot, but I can't look at it right now. Unless, hang on. Hang on. I don't understand when it talks about how you can be one, but you can mistake yourself to be another. What does that mean?
Okay, so that's something that actually they the guest speaker on the episode with Dave and Rachel Hollis on their podcast, the Rise Together podcast, right? That's actually something that they asked him, because again, I don't know, he's like more of an expert. Sometimes, yeah, it can be like there's subtle differences, but it's like really this person is actually truly more of a different number, but based on the way that they answer the questions and how they view themselves. Because remember, it's also a personality test still based on how you answer it, how you answer it. You can mistake yourself for something else kind of based on how you perceive yourself. That's what, if I remember correctly, that's kind of how he described it. in the podcast episode. I really encourage you to listen to it because it's pretty phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the little trigger words were in there that said twos like to feel virtuous, selfless, and they thrive on being needed. And it was kind of a trigger. I'm like, no, I don't. You know, so they're often helper and helping
it's something for you to reflect on. Why do you feel such a strong reaction to when you hear that? Like, why is that kind of an emotional trigger for you?
And this says any threat to that self-image is scarcely tolerated. And I was just kind of like, okay,
yeah,
I don't know because I would say probably the majority of the time I'm just kind of hanging out by myself, doing my own thing. So,
Yeah. And that's something where you can kind of go, okay, if that's true, or if you reflect and you think, okay, why would I type this way? Why is my type like this? Okay. And then how can I use that and maybe grow or learn from that? And how can I turn that into my business where, maybe I'm not being authentic or something like that, or I don't know, however, it depends on however you think of it when you kind of reflect. It depends on, and you'll have to finish reading more about it because it's there's tons of pages of descriptions of the personality types and of each personality type. So that's interesting to hear. And it's good to hear that you're like Monica was like, yeah, I pretty much agree with what I read. I pretty much agree with what I read. And even then the stuff that they said that wasn't super like sunshine and rainbows and butterflies, I was aware of. So it's like, for someone, it's good to have someone else say, I was a little shocked and I disagree. And I don't.
Well, I mean, the first part of it I did agree with. Is that they enjoy helping others.
Yeah.
And it's not that I find a sense of fulfillment with it, but it's almost like an intrinsic thing in my life that if someone needs help, that you help them. And if
you're a teacher too, that was your job. That's what you were called to do.
Yeah.
So interesting. So yeah, after some self-reflection and kind of you'll have to circle back to us at some point and see like what you've decided to come up with as to like why you typed that way, or what's going on. And then how you can use that and to leverage your business, I think
the one thing I did get right though is if I don't know an answer to something, I go on, I figure it out, or I research it until I can't research it anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. And, there could be many squirrels and you start researching, the letter A, and before you know it, you're researching the letter X and you're like, wait a minute, where was I? That, when I do ask for help sometimes, like when I've just sincerely taxed out and timed out of all my avenues and I ask for help. And then someone kind of like when I help other people and it kind of gets thrown back in my face of, well, I'm busy or do it yourself. Then that pisses me off.
Yeah.
And so that was in there and I'm like, yeah, I agree with that because it's like, someone will say like tonight I was getting off at 6:00 and they're like, well, can you stay? Can you work a little extra? Can we eat? And I'm like, well, yeah.
I have no idea what that feels like.
I know. And when she was saying that, I was like laughing because I worked late last night. I came in early this morning. I worked late and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I kind of said, well, I can't tomorrow, and then she's like, well, why? And I'm like, I have to draw boundaries. But, when I ask for help and it's like, figure it out, do it yourself. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
So it does. I don't know why it made it, but it's, love my son to death. But I said, hey, I need help, hanging this really heavy shelf. I had to put wall anchors in this wall. I can't do it myself. I've waited like 3 months for him and this other person to come help me and they have it. And I finally kind of like drew the line. It's time. I rearranged this room. Now this giant shelf's in the way and it has to get hung on the wall. And my son actually told me to go YouTube it.
What?
Yes. And I told him that he was being passive aggressive, that he gave me these papers on like conflict resolution. And I said, you need to go back and read your papers. I said, because whenever you ask me for help, my answer is either, a yes or a no, or see what I can do. And I ask you for help and you tell me to YouTube it. And I said, I'm just pissed off. So I'm just going to hang up. So I hang up before he said something I regretted. So when I got to work the next day, his girlfriend was like, I heard about the conversation on the phone. And, she was partly the one that was helping me too. She goes, I keep putting you off and putting you off. She goes, I don't know why. She goes, you're the only person I do that to. And I was like, huh.
So yeah, it's just great to know. It's good to be self-aware. I love taking personality tests. Some of them, depending on the validity, can be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I like this one because it has a lot of research to back it up. It has a lot of experts that know a lot about this. There are literally books written about them that I can also post the names of the ones I said, so that you guys can look it up if you're curious. I think it is a great, effective way to help as a tool to run your business. Does anybody have anything else before we end?
I was going to say, I know we talked about this last week and I think we just all kind of forgot, but to start a thread with us. I know me, you and Elena have one, but to start a thread with all of us that have been
You're right. And I lost my mind. I said I would start it.
But then I was like, gosh, I don't have who they want to add.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do that as soon as we get off the call.
Yeah.
There are 2 things I have to do when I get off the call, and that is now one of them.
Yeah, to help cheer them on. So as you guys, just so Monica and Darla, we have to hit SC6 by the end of this week, by
the end of the month.
Yeah. So for us to get into another special group of trainers that Lindsay has for us, she definitely makes it be where you have to earn your spot into those groups.
Yeah.
There's no, just because you're under a top coach, you don't automatically.
No, Lindsay's pretty strict with what she does. It's you hit these benchmarks, or you don't. And she's like, I'm not mad at you. I don't make you feel bad if you don't, but I'm not gonna that. It just means you're not in this, group that she's running with Christina Delgado and 2 other coaches. So yeah, so that's why Rochelle and I were talking about pushing hard for our goals so that we can get into this group.
Yeah. And her classic saying, and she'll say it over and over and over, is you walk, I walk, you jog, I jog, you run, I run. And whatever effort you put in is what she'll put in.
Yeah.
But if and it's frustrating because I know there's times I feel well, I have ran, I just didn't hit what I needed to hit, even though I tried my hardest. And she'll come back and say, could you have done a fingernail more? Could you have done an inch more? And then you're thinking, well, I guess I could have, but it is sometimes frustrating. But then I have to think, okay, if she just took us under her wings all the time, it's kind of like that thing Darla just said. We wouldn't be resourceful. We wouldn't figure it out. We would just expect to get these privileges or whatever. So
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's frustrating and hard sometimes, but it's only as hard as you let it be. So
oh yeah,
to cheer each other on.
Yeah, I will start that. I'll start that tonight.
Yeah, and just kind of a daily, hey, where are you at? Let's keep each other accountable.
Okay, perfect. I'll start that tonight, and anybody listening to the recording, just send me a DM, and we'll get you added too.